pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Mr. Smith?
Here.
Ms. Selchow? Mr. Lindemann?
Here.
Mr. Ramos?
Here.
Mr. Breen?
Here, and let the record show that Ms. Salchow is excused. She had another appointment she had to attend to. Members of the board, thanks for being here. Good morning. For another important meeting to get some housekeeping taken care of. Do we have anybody that wants to, under item D, address the board? Item 2A, discussion action on formalizing and directing the administration to proceed with a prospective bond election for Douglas High School Gymnasium and all possible options and variations. I'll entertain a motion to do that.
I move to approve.
Is there second discussion? Members of the board, I think anybody that knows anything about the Douglas School District knows that gymnasium has been there since 1949. And I think what we also have to acknowledge is the fact that it is a learning facility. It's not just an athletic and a recreational structure. It's a learning facility. We have classrooms in there. We have office accommodations for staff. And it's important to note that it probably has served the district well for many years. However, I think recently we've taken a tour of it, and I think over the years people see the gym floor, and that's the first thing that meets the eye. Is you see the floor and you say, well, the floor is fine because it was replaced a few years ago. Right. However, what is not obvious and not visible is beyond those walls in the back there where we have all of the other facilities. They're dilapidated. The environment in there is, you know, when we went through there, it's grungy. It's just not conducive to a good learning situation, and it's not good for our students. It's certainly not good for our staff, and ultimately the community. So I think that, and I'm going to recommend that we, with the motion, that we instruct the administration to look into all of the, and formalize it, that they look into all of the ramifications of proceeding with a bond issue. However, you'll notice there that also if there's any combination or any other different options that can be followed, such as a combination of a bond or the use of other funds or whatever, to have them come back to the board and tell us that it would be probably more feasible to do this or to do that. And then, of course, they have to they're going to have to consult with bonding attorneys and bonding firms that are familiar with public bonds and know what our rating is for a bond issue, and all of those things that are involved in doing something of this magnitude. But I appreciate the fact that the board's willing to discuss it and hopefully approve it. And with that, I'll open discussion with members of the board first.
Yeah, Mr. President, you know, we did take a tour through that facility, and you know, I just don't think that it's able to be upgraded or retrofitted. It's so old. The learning environment, you know, I don't believe that you can change that or you can deal with anything to upgrade. So, you know, it's been old. It's served its purpose, but I really believe that we have to look for the next 50 years or the next, you know, many years of service. And so I think we need to revamp the whole thing. That's my opinion.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes, my only concern is that I know you're going to bring in the figures, the cost to build a new building from the bottom up, and what would be the bond rate that we're going to be imposing on the community. And that's my number one concern there. But I totally agree that building is past its years in service, and we need to do something about it.
Very good, and I think Mr. Soto will tell you, because he's over maintenance, that over the years, they've had to do so many Band-Aid type of address conditions that needed to be done. The bleachers are completely, I don't think, they're not they're mechanical now, but they're not electric like they used to be. They're not in good condition at all, actually, I don't think, for spectators. The plumbing is always bad. The bathrooms are deplorable. We could just go on, and again, I want to stress the fact that it's a working environment for our staff as well. They're housed there. So with that, and with the comments by the board, I'm going to defer now to the superintendent. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Smith. Do you have anything to add to that?
Actually, I do, and I know that this is just the initial stages, but and just mainly just for the administration, I have quite a few questions that I would like to get the information for, as we proceed. First of all, I guess one of the first things we'd have to determine whether we're going to do a retrofit or if it's even possible to completely, take it down and build from scratch. From what I understand, also, we have a current bond going. Is that correct?
Correct.
When will that bond be paid off?
2029, I believe, but I'm
Correct.
gonna defer to Mr. Soto because he's the one that officially has all the information.
Right, the
Go ahead.
final payment
Yeah.
should be 2029. So we have 4 more years,
Okay.
5 more years, sorry, yeah.
So basically, if we do another bond, this is going to be another increase on the taxes that we're currently paying until the previous bond is paid off, correct?
Correct, on the secondary
Okay.
property tax,
Um,
yes.
And we don't know what what was the interest on the previous bond? Do we know?
I don't know off the top of my head. Sorry, I don't.
We can get the
Yes.
information for the board at a June
I
board
would
meeting.
be- Yeah, I would be curious as to what the percentage, the interest percentage was on the previous bond compared to what the new one is. Obviously, with the inflation and everything, bond rates it's at its highest that it's been in quite a while.
Right.
That would be one of my questions. Is it something that we need to do now, or do we need to try and put it off for a year? Because while inflation is high and the interest rates are high and everything else, you're wanting to increase taxes on people where it's already a lot of them having problems, paying for the increase in goods. So that's a very real problem that we've got to consider into there. And again, we need to figure out how much money we need to revamp or rebuild that gymnasium before we put it into a bond. And obviously, whether or not if the property that we've agreed to put on the agenda for the next election, if that does sale, I'm hoping that money could be applied to it. We may not even need to do bond. Also, are there any state funding? And this was prior to my time on the board. How was the funding for the new cafeteria and classrooms? How did we get that? Was that through bond or was that through state funding?
That's the School Facilities Board, is state money.
It was through state money?
Correct.
Yeah, so that,
Is there any possible?
that project, Mr. Smith, was completely 100% funded by the School Facilities Board, which are state monies. And normally, because this is a conversation we've had with the architects for many times, many districts have to go out for bond in addition to their state dollars. So in this case, it was 100% funded by the State Facilities Board, and no bond needed for
My
that.
question would be, what are the possibilities of getting the state to fund at least a portion of this before we start adding tax revenue to the citizens? So, like I said, this is just a number of questions that I have that I would like the information on, cost of whatever renovations we're going to do, whether it's a complete replacement or just renovations or all that.
Building.
What we can say now, as far as that last question, is would the State Facility Board be able to fund this project? Mr. Soto has asked that same question previously on numerous times. And the answer, from what I understand, has been no, because the gymnasium, while it is utilized for our health and PE classes, and it's an instructional space, also our CTE sports medicine lab is in there. The main portion of that building is the gymnasium, and according to State Facilities Board, that is really not an instructional entity. And for that reason, the answer has been no, but it doesn't mean we're not going to ask. And we have already engaged in that conversation, as a matter of fact, to see what we're able to do with state facilities money and what are our options.
Mr. Smith, your questions are all very, very well taken. And that's what the administration is going to do. They're going to come back with all your answers and more, hopefully. And of course, the point that Ms. Samaniego just made about the School Facilities Board, I personally think that they can be partially convinced that is a learning structure. And but that's something that they'll look into with other options and other variations that they might come back with us about just about where we need to go from to proceed from whatever the information they bring back to us. Go ahead, Mr. Smith.
No, and that's I just wanted to kind of put that stuff out to the administration so they would know what kind of information I personally was interested in finding out. So, yeah, that's all the comments that I have on it.
Okay, so
I have a comment.
yeah, go ahead, Mr.
I just want to also comment that the city's tax rate is being reduced. And so the city, as far as that goes, because we all pay taxes, both school and city, there is a reduction on the city side. So I just want to say that.
Any further information you want to give at this time, Mr. Soto?
No, I don't think so. Again, we're going to research on these questions and bring more information. We have already contacted one of the bond firms to start having conversations about this. We still have to, of course, more in depth and ask those questions in terms of our bond capacity, what's going to happen with the current bond and the interest rate. All of that stuff can start now after this board meeting.
If it's approved.
Correct.
And of course, it is, as you pointed out very well to Mr. Smith, it's the secondary tax rate, and people need to understand that. And it, of course, it's affected by the city tax, because everybody pays city tax, residential, and anything that's related to that. So, Ms. Samaniego, do you have anything else you want to add?
No, so we've already engaged in one conversation, one meeting with one of the bond consultants firms, and so we will move forward if that is a direction that the board gives us to continue those conversations and bring more accurate data. As far as the important thing here is, what is our bond capacity? Based on what their research is and the information. So once we have that, we can then bring that to the board and say, okay, we have $15 million in bond capacity, and these are our options, A, B, C. Initially in our conversation too was they gave us some guidance as to how this, because it's a complex process. It doesn't happen overnight, but they guide us, from start to finish, and so we will set up a second follow meeting if that is the direction of the board.
And I think for clarification, to make sure everybody understands very, very clearly that we're not approving a bond election
Yes.
today. We're just instructing the administration to proceed with all the information and to come back with us. And at that time, then we'll make the decision regarding all of the questions that we have, especially the ones that are regarding the tax rate, what our bonding capacity is, and how much we owe on the other one, and anything that goes along with that, with any information of similar interest. All right? Any further discussion by the administration? Anything you want to add? Mr. Smith, anything else?
No, nothing else.
Mr. Lindeman, anything else you want to add?
No, thank you.
Mr. Ramos? Roll call.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Lindeman?
Yes.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Breen?
Yes, item 2B, discussion action pursuant to policy BGF to temporarily suspend policy BGB, requiring 2 readings of the proposed policy prior to approval of the adoption in order, I can't get to the next page. In order to approve policy GCQUEA, and that's the one that deals with retirement of professional support staff members, staff post-retirement employment option, and then, of course, immediately upon the first reading. Ms. Samaniego.
This is just, we had brought this to you a couple weeks ago, and so you see 2 things in red that we needed on this and that we didn't put on the, to match the retirement, which is the 85% salary, and you'll see that in red and in the last paragraph. So that should have been on there, and I'm bringing this back to the board so that stays on this policy. It matches with the 85% retirement that we have going on with ESI.
And it puts a cap on it.
Yes, it
too,
puts a cap on it, so.
puts a cap
yes,
on-
so we need those two to match.
which which doesn't exist
Yes.
today, which was very expensive for the Dexter Act. Mr. Lindeman, I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
By Mr. Ramos. Any discussion?
I wanted to ask a question. When you said you put a cap on that, I was trying to read. What, can you explain that?
Yes, so when our employees, and this has been existing for numerous years, so when people retire and then they come back to the district should have a cap on what that rehired salary should be. And so that's the 85%, so that when a person that's retiring and comes back, our salaries have changed, right, over the years. And so the starting salary for a teacher, for example, is higher than it was back when they retired. So this allows us to go back to their last contracted year as a district employee and look at that salary of that contract year and saying, if their salary cannot be more than 85% of that contracted time, so that they're not making more, for example, when they come back to the district than when they left the district. So it protects the district, and that's what it does.
And that presumes that they're in the same position.
Yes,
right?
yes,
Okay.
yes, because some people may come back and want to work in a different position.
Right,
Like,
right.
I've had some teachers inquire and say, I want to retire, but I want to come back as an IA. I don't want the responsibility of a
Sure.
teaching position, so, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Ramos, any questions?
No.
Mr. Smith,
No questions.
anything else from the administration? Roll call.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Lindeman?
Yes.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Bereen?
Yes, item 3, the governing board may vote to convene into executive session pursuant to ARS 38-431.03, subsection A, number 1, for the following personnel matter. A, discuss and negotiate the superintendent's contract. Entertain a motion to do that.
I move to enter into executive session.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Lindeman?
Yes.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Bereen?
Yes, and we're going to move into the superintendent's office because we have Mr. Smith on the phone, and again, the communication is much better in there. to adjourn the executive session, and we're back in open meeting. Item 4A, discussion action on the approval of superintendent's contract for Superintendent Ana Samaniego. Members of the board, I'm going to recommend that just for review, the board approved at the last meeting a contract of a total base salary for $161,690.72 for Ms. Samaniego, and that there was a $2,500 longevity award, along with her health was worth $10,121.40, along with dental, $535.08. Vision was $243.72, for an amount of $11,000 for the total benefits, for a total amount of the contract for 3 years, a multi-year contract, for $175,190.72. Now, that's for review. That's already been approved. What we're going to do today is I'm going to ask a motion for a motion to approve, as presented and in front of you, all the terms and agreement of the present contract for Ms. Samaniego. Before we get to that motion and approval, I also want to say that all of the particulars, all the provisions, the agreements, and the recitals are open to public consumption, and they can see it at the superintendent's office, anybody that wants access to it. So let me entertain a motion to approve the one as presented.
I move to approve the superintendent's contract as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
To Mr. Ramos. Any discussion, members of the board? Mr. Smith?
No questions or discussion for me.
All right, any comments, questions any questions regarding the contract? Mr. Soto, the amounts of money or benefits or anything in there? Roll call.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann?
Yes.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes. Item 5, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
By Mr. Ramos. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We stand adjourned.